Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Amen. Our next song is not in our prayer book, so we're going to screen share it while Juliet leads us in singing. Light these lights.
Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say amen. Let us light these lights and see the way to you, and let us say amen. Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you.
Of Lecha Dodi as we welcome this Sabbath, pages 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishmianu el-meyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem tiferet v'litila, Hadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'nei Echad, ki mechor habracha lerosh mekerem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tekilah. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. B'nei Shabbat Boi v'shalom materet b'ala Gam b'simcha u'b'tzola Toch emunei am segula Boi chala
Julia, thank you so much. That's a favorite arrangement of a very ancient song. Thank you so much for sharing it. We're going to turn to Shabbat Evening Service 2 on page 145 of your Mishkan Tefillah prayer book, page 145, as we transition from these introductory parts of our service to the main event. Please feel free to join with me in chanting Chatzi Kaddish on page 145. Yitkadahal v'yitkadash shemei rabba ve'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayeichon uv'yomeichon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imeru amen yehesh mei rabba mevarach Le'alam alal me'al maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha barichu le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata damihiran be'alma ve'imeru Amen. This brings us to the Baruch Hu, which is our actual call to worship as we begin for real this evening. You may rise to your feet wherever you are, if you are so inclined, or lift your spirits. Page 146 for Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. And at this time, it's a real pleasure to invite Bob Epstein to our online bima to lead us in the prayers on pages 147 and 148. Bob, we can't hear you. Can you please unmute yourself?
Doesn't want to unmute. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you just fine, Bob. Please continue.
Okay. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky, sun, moon, and stars. Testify to your power and wisdom.
Day following day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Aravim. On page 148. In each age we received and transmit Torah. At each moment we are addressed by the world. In each age we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment we stand face to face with truth. In each age we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment the knowing heart is filled with wonder. In each age the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
Bob, thank you so much. That was wonderful to hear.
You're welcome.
And please, everyone, join with Juliet on in singing Ahavat Olam, which appears at the top of page 148.
Ahavat olam, Bet Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amacha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadta, Otanu limadta, Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, B'shomrenu u'b'kolenu, Nasiach b'chuktecha, V'nismach b'rivei Toratecha, U'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki הם חיינו, לאורך ימינו, ובהם נגד יומם, יומם ולילה. אהבתך אל תסיר, ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Juliet, thank you so much. We are going to continue on page 149 with the Shema, our declaration of God's unity. And of course, please feel free to join me, not just in singing, but in signing, if you are familiar with the sign language. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. I'll tell you, that's become a favorite piece of the worship service for me. Zoom is just no substitute for meeting in person, but that's one way I can see and feel the connection with all of you. So thank you. We're going to continue with Ve'ahavta, which appears on page 150. And again, please feel free to join with me in chanting. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantaham levanecha v'dibartaha baham v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvelechtecha v'derech uveshochbecha uvekumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha uchetavtam al mezuzahot beitecha uvisharecha l'mahan tizkaruhu va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kadoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Please join with Juliet in singing Micha Mocha, our song of joy at liberation, which we find on page 152.
Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar v'kodesh, Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar v'kodesh. Who is like you? Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? When Moses and Miriam crossed the sea, they sang to you with songs of joy. Who is like you, Adonai? Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar v'kodesh, Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar v'kodesh. Norat Gilot Osefele Norat Gilot Osefele Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar v'kodesh, Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar v'kodesh.
Juliet, thank you so much. That was lovely. Another tune by a good friend of ours, Rick Recht. This brings us to the next major rubric of prayers, the next group of prayers that we have in our prayer book, the Amidah, also known as the Tefillah, the standing prayer. This is where we declare our praise and our love for our God, and take a moment for our personal individual prayers. Please join with me on pages 156, 157, and 158 in your prayer book. We'll begin on page 156. And once again, I'll invite you to rise to your feet wherever you are, or lift your spirits. Page 156 for the tefillah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot ve'imahot, u'mevi ge'ula livnei v'neihem l'ma'an shemo be'ahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 157. Ta gibor le'olam Adonai, mechaye hakol ata rav lehoshia, mechalkel chayim b'chesed, mechaye hakol b'rachamim rabim, somech noflim verofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunataho, lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, umidom melach, melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atal hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Page 158. Ta kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalalu chasela Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. As you prefer, you may remain standing or be seated. Please take a few moments now for your own individual prayers, whatever you wish to say to the Holy One, blessed be. Now is your moment. Our prayer for healing this week is on page 373, although we do not have the entirety of the prayer. The Hebrew for it appears on page 373. If you wish to mention someone for a prayer for healing and you have permission to share their name publicly, please feel free to add their names in the chat tool and on your screen. We'll be happy to include them as well. This week, we are praying for healing for the following people: Thomas Tracy, Dennis Nichols, Don Siegel, Samantha Brown, Miles Brown, Nancy Felsher, Bennett Leshnover, Caleb Ben Sarah V'Avraham, Ray Riley, Rabbi Yudi Dukes, Harav Chaim Shneur Zalman, Yehuda Ben Hinda Yocheved, Morgan Wiley, Myra Gassman, Michelle Johnson, Robin Singer, Mark Solomon, Luke Siegel, Elaine Seidler, Debbie Allen, Amy Warner, Amelia Schmidt, Rebecca Leonards, Ray Mills, Myrna Nelson, Kathy Gross, and people everywhere who suffer and who are in need of healing, as well as Patty Bennett and Jack Stanaker. El Na Rafana La is our prayer for healing this evening. Please feel free to join with Juliet singing, and the words in Hebrew appear on page 373.
El Na Rafana La, Refuah Shlema, El Na Rafana La. Please heal this soul. El Na Rafana La. Refuah Shlema, El Na Rafana La. Please heal this soul. Mishevera, Avraham v'Sara, Yitzhak v'Rivka, Yaakov, Rachel v'Leah, El Na Rafana La. Refuah Shlema, El Na Rafana La. Please heal this soul. With faith and love, together we bring hope and healing to those in need, without judgment, without explanation, for we are all God's creation. El Na Rafana La. Refuah Shlema, El Na Rafana La. Please heal this soul. El Na Rafana La. Refuah Shlema, El Na Rafana La. Please heal this soul.
Thank you. And now I invite you all to join with me in reciting the blessing over Torah study. Since we are both together and apart, we'll do the blessing over Torah study this evening. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And our Torah portion this evening comes from Torah portion Noach. This comes from Genesis chapter 8, verses 3 through 13. Vayisakru mayanot tahom va'arubot hashamayim vayikale hageshem min hashamayim. Now the well springs of the deep and the fountains of the heavens were stopped up, and the water began to disappear and the water covered the earth. Vayashuvu hamayim me'al haaretz, and the waters began to retreat from over the surface of the earth. Haloch v'shov vayachasru hamayim miktsei chamishim u'ma'at yom. The water began to dry up little by little, but the water was gone by 150 days. Vatanach hateva b'chodesh hashevi'i V'shiv'a asar yom l'chodesh al hare Ararat. And the ark came to rest on the seventh month, on the 17th day of the month, upon one of the mountains of Ararat. V'hamayim hayu haloch v'chasor ad hachodesh ha'asiri be'echad lachodesh nir'u rashi ha'arim. Now, the waters were completely gone by the 10th month. On the 11th day of the month, the mountaintops appeared. Vayehi miketz arba'im yom vayiftach Noach et chalon hateva asher asa. Now, at the end of 40 days, Noah opened the window of the ark, which he had made. Vayishalach et ha'orev, vayetze yatso v'shov ad yavoshet hamayim mi'al ha'aretz. Then he sent forth a raven, which went back and forth until the waters had dried up from off of the earth. Vayishlach ad hayona et hayona me'ito lirot hakalu hamayim. Then he sent a dove from him to see whether the waters had abated from off the face of the earth. Velo matzah hayona manoach, but the dove found no rest. Manoach lechaf raglah, no place to put its feet. V'tashov elav, and it came back to him, el hateva ki mayim al panei kol haaretz, and it returned to the ark, for water covered the whole world. Vayishlach yado v'yikacheha. So Noah put out his hand and took it. Vayave ota elav el hateva, and took it back into the ark with him. Vayachel od shiv'at yamim acherim vayosef shalach et hayona min hateva. Then he waited for another week and sent the dove out from the ark again. Vatavo elav hayona le'et erev vehine lezayit taraf befiha. So then the dove came back again at the time of evening, and wow, look at that. An olive leaf ripped off was in its mouth. Vayeda Noach ki kalu hamayim me'al haaretz, and Noah knew that the waters had vanished from upon the earth. Vayachel od shiv'at yamim acherim, and at the end of 7 more days, vayishlach et hayona, he sent out the dove. Velo yasfa shuv elav od, but it did not come back to him again. Vayehi ba'achat v'shesh ma'ot shana, and so on 101 years, barishon 106 me'ot shana, at the barishon be'achat lachodesh, on the first of the month, charvu hamayim me'al haaretz, vayasar Noach et michsei hateva, and Noah removed the cover from off the ark, vayar v'hine charvu fenei ha'adama, and he looked, and whoa, the whole face of the earth was destroyed. B'chodesh hasheni, in the 2nd month, the Shiv'ah ve'esrim, on the 17th Yom, on the 17th day of the month, Yom lachodesh, Yavasha ha'aretz, the earth had dried up. It has been an eventful week for me and for the Indianapolis Jewish community. I'll be talking about some intense topics tonight, and I just thought I might mention that as I get started. Parental discretion is advised. I love kids and I love having them at the services, but be ready. We're going to be talking about some pretty adult things. Twice this week, I received urgent email messages asking for the support of my organization. It took me a moment to realize I was receiving the same message twice. Once as the rabbi of Congregation Beth Shalom, and once as a member of the Indiana Board of Rabbis. This email message came from Lindsay Mintz, the director of the Jewish Community Relations Council, the JCRC. Those of you who were at our panel discussion on systemic racism will remember her. The email message pertained to the same set of events taking place on the campus of Butler University. Long, fascinating, and highly relevant story short as I can make it, Hillel students learned that the Butler University Student Government Association, SGA, was sponsoring an event called Boycott and Safe Protesting 101. SGA was the only named sponsor, though it quickly became clear to no one's surprise that Students for Justice in Palestine, which campaigns for boycotts, divestment, and sanctions against the state of Israel, was a co-sponsor. An exhibit to be on display during the event would feature posters from the American Friends Service Committee's Art of the Boycott series, which has already been displayed 3 times on the Butler campus in the past 6 years. But this would be the first time it had been so explicitly endorsed by the student government at Butler. According to Noni Vonnegut-Gabovich, the community advisor to Hillel at Butler University, students have attended the art exhibit and found a significant number of pieces to be anti-Israel, specifically promoting the BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions against Israel. This is obviously very concerning, she says. While we rely on SGA to remain politically neutral and to represent the student body, their sponsorship and endorsement of this event does just the opposite. We are incredibly disappointed in SGA for supporting an event with such a hateful, alienating, marginalizing agenda masked by larger social action themes. And therefore, JCRC's emails asked for the support of Jewish organizations toward Butler SGA's adoption of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition of anti-Semitism, which states, anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community, institutions, and religious facilities. Contemporary examples of anti-Semitism in public life, the media, schools, workplace, and religious sphere could include, but aren't limited to, calling for, aiding, or justifying killing or harming Jews in the name of a radical ideology or an extremist view of religion, making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as a collective, like the myth of a world Jewish conspiracy, or of Jews controlling media, government, economy, or other societal institutions. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, even for acts committed by non-Jews. Accusing the Jews as a people or Israel as a state of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nations, and or denying Jewish people their right to self-determination, e.g. by claiming the existence of the state of Israel is a racist endeavor. Or there's other examples, but that's enough for now, using symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, e.g. claims of Jews killing Jesus, or the blood libel to characterize Israel or Israelis. So by JCRC's deadline, which they asked for in these urgent emails, nearly 50 Jewish organizations across Indiana, including our own Beth Shalom and the Indiana Board of Rabbis, had signed on with our support. JCRC Director Lindsay Mintz was pleased to report that Jewish students at Butler and several of their allies once again spoke eloquently, personally, and powerfully in front of their peers at an SGA meeting, that they had secured a meeting with the university president, and that they had coalesced and exercised their voices, both in individual and collective ways, with the utmost maturity and poise. And while doing so, they also learned much about process, lobbying, and communication, when to bend and when to stand firm, earning respect from peers, advisors, faculty, and administrators. And as the JCRC announced today, the breadth of signatories expressing support for that IHRA working definition spans the Jewish denominational and political spectrum, making clear that while there's much diversity within the Jewish community, we are united on the fact that anti-Semitism needs to be addressed and combated, not debated. With so much anti-Semitism, hate, lies, falsehoods, and disinformation circulating on campus, in the mass media, and especially on the internet, stories like what happened at Butler this week matter very much. Stories about how members of our Jewish community can stick up for ourselves and for others, how we can state what we are for as much as what we are against, might matter now more than ever in my lifetime, maybe in some of yours as well. This week is also the second anniversary of the massacre at Tree of Life Congregation in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the worst mass killing at a synagogue in American history, committed by a gunman driven to a frenzy by hateful lies about immigrants and Muslims circulating online. And as if that, the unremitting hatred of the state of Israel and scurrilous attempts to delegitimize it through campaigns for boycotts, divestments, and sanctions, vicious attacks against Holocaust survivor George Soros of all people, not to mention cruel and false conspiracy theories peddled explicitly about the Holocaust and Jewish people, as if all that was not enough. Yet another dark, violent conspiracy is growing, morphing, and gaining followers on the internet. I'm thinking, of course, of QAnon, which is shorthand for the absurd and despicable notion that some secret cabal bent on world domination kidnaps children for pedophilia or to gain power by slaughtering them and eating their blood, that this cabal controls government, banks, finance, the news media, and the church, and that these shadowy fiends, whoever they are determined to depopulate and mongrelize the white race so that it will lose power. QAnon, of course, is nothing more than the same accusations which were raised in a paper screed called The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, authored in Tsarist Russia in 1902, and influential in anti-Semitic circles ever since, repackaged for the internet age in order to demonize the Jewish people as some satanic other. Our Torah portion this week, Noach, tells that favorite Bible story of Noah's Ark. It's hard to ignore the story we think we know, the one about a boat ride with cute animals. But if we just discovered it, we might call it Noah's fallout shelter. Genesis chapter 7, verses 17 through 23, matter-of-factly and grimly describe the destruction of all life on earth. The portion I read tonight, Genesis chapter 8, verses 3 through 13, tell familiar details of how the flood finally ends after 40 days and 40 nights, and the dove famously returning with an olive branch in its beak. But how long does that flood last? Is it 40 days, as it says in Genesis 8, verse 6, or is it 150 days, as it says in Genesis chapter 8, verse 3? And if it's a dove, what's this about a raven who goes winging to and fro, waiting for the water to dry up over the earth's surface in chapter 8, verse 7? I imagined Noah floating, lost and vulnerable upon a flood of misinformation with his family, pinging the world with his birds for information. And I wondered which bird he could trust. Could that raven be a source of disinformation, lies, or propaganda? No, we cannot dismiss the raven. In fact, a midrash explains that the raven does not return to Noah and the ark because it has urgent business to attend to. All the way over in the first book of Kings, chapter 17, which if you trace that down, it describes how ravens bring meat to none other than the prophet Elijah. But I would not be wrong to think about errors and lies and disinformation in the context of this Torah portion at Noah. Another midrash comes to tell us that falsehood with a capital F asks Noah for shelter on the ark. Noah denies him admission, pointing out that he had no companion, and Noah was only accepting animals in pairs. Can't you just see that happening? Sorry, can't have, everybody else here has got a partner. Go get somebody, maybe I can let you on. So falsehood goes to find himself a partner, and he meets Misfortune with a capital M. She agrees to go with him on the condition that she takes for herself whatever falsehood earns. Later, the midrash continues, when falsehood notices whatever he gained for himself disappears immediately, he confronts Misfortune, who reminds him, did we not agree I would take what you earn? So, what does Noah, the patriarch of the only family of his entire generation, righteous enough to escape destruction, do? He checks it out for himself. In Genesis chapter 8, verse 6, Vayehi miketz arbaim yom, vayiftach Noach et chalon hateva asher asa. At the end of 40 days, Noah opened the window that he had made. Why wouldn't our text just say he opened the window? Why does it bother to say which he had made? Windows don't come factory standard on the ark. God never tells Noah to build a window. God gives very detailed specifications of just how exactly to build the ark. It says nothing about a window, which is an act of mercy. God spares Noah and his family from having to witness the horrors of the destruction that is taking place outside the ark. Torah's sages of blessed memory are clear that the experience aboard the ark is miserable. The ark is just a box adrift. It has no keel, no hull, no rudder, oars, or sails. It's entirely vulnerable. God's own self seals Noah and his family inside to ride out the disaster. Noah's window, then, is an aftermarket custom edition drilled out from the inside. In verse 13, Noah doesn't just open a window, he removes the whole covering of the ark in order to see for himself and perhaps to relieve his family and the other passengers who are desperate by then. In our own day, how do we distinguish from truth from falsehood? Where can we turn for reliable information? Especially as the prospect of election day and of an election night without a clear winner draws closer, we can be forgiven for feeling anxious about what's going to happen next. So who will be our doves and our ravens? How will we open a window, even the whole cover, in order to see just what's going on? It bears repeating. Tools like factcheck.org, International Fact-Checking Network, PolitiFact.com, or Snopes.com are free, nonpartisan, and easily available. Thanks to my older brother Ross, who is a professional financial news writer, my web browser is equipped with the NewsGuard extension. It's easy to get, easy to install. Just ask for help if you need. This free browser plugin assesses the credibility and transparency of news websites and displays ratings of them in search and social media feeds. NewsGuard gives an immediate green or red evaluation, and if you click on it, it'll give you a full nutrition label, so to speak. ranking the site on 9 different factors, such as whether they handle the difference between news and opinion responsibly, whether they regularly correct or clarify errors, and do they reveal who's in charge, including potential conflicts of interest. The New York Times and Washington Post each get 9 out of 9 possible points. Fox News, which makes no secret of its conservative biases, gets a green label with 6 out of 9 because it is transparent about its point of view. And then there's MediaWise, a nonprofit, nonpartisan project of the Poynter Institute, which supports journalism in free societies worldwide. For the young, there's MediaWise for Generation Z, which recruits teens to work virtually across America to fact-check content online as members of the MediaWise Teen Fact-Checking Network. And to our teens and our college students live streaming us tonight, I want you to know that we care about you. We are here to support you. For earlier generations, there's MediaWise for seniors, which empowers older people to distinguish fact from fiction on the internet. Likewise, to our seniors who may be watching from home or from skilled nursing facilities this evening, I want you to know that we care about you too, and we're here to support you too. I notice in our text that Noach, his wife Naamah, and their sons and daughters-in-law do not turn on one another while they are in the ark. We do not have to either. But like them, we can pay careful attention to the information we use to make our decisions. We can notice who makes use of such dreck, to use a word in Yiddish, whose English translation I wouldn't use on the pulpit, and who avoids it. We can reject any leaders who would use falsehood and disinformation to divide us from our fellow Jews or our fellow Americans. The flood ends with the sign of the rainbow and the first covenant in the Torah between God and all humanity not to destroy all life on earth again. At such a fraught, anxious moment for all of us, a little faith that we're going to survive and thrive, never to be cut off again, might just be what we all need. Kain Yahi Ratzon, so may it be God's will.
When it rains, it pours, but you didn't even notice. It ain't raining anymore. It's hard to breathe when all you know is the struggle of staying above the rising water line. Well, the sky is finally opened. The rain and wind stop blowing, but you're stuck out in the same old storm again. Hold tight to your umbrella, but darling, I'm just trying to tell you that there's always been a rainbow hanging over your head. If you could see what I see, you'd be blinded by the colors, yellow, red, and orange, and green, and at least a million others. So tie up the bow, take off your coat, and take a look around. 'Cause the sky is finally open, the rain and wind stop blowing, but you're stuck out in the same old storm again. You hold tight to your umbrella, but darling, I'm just trying to tell you that there's always been a rainbow hanging over your head. take off your coat and take a look around. Everything is all right now, 'cause the sky is finally open, the rain and wind stop blowing, and you're stuck out in the same old storm again. Let go of your umbrella, darling, I'm just trying to tell you that there's always been a rainbow hanging over your head. Yeah, there's always been a rainbow hanging over your head. It'll be all right.
Juliet, thank you so much. And now I'd like to invite our congregational president, Judy Weitzman, to the online Bima for some virtual announcements.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm first of all would like to take this opportunity to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom and say how glad we are to share this time with you. And a special thank you to Rabbi Justin and Juliet for all the work you have done to make this service meaningful and uplifting. And thank you also to Bob Epstein and Lonnie and Diane Grohl for participating in this evening's service. You have all made it possible for us to feel the connection to our Beth Shalom family on this Shabbat. We are still accepting clothing and household goods for the newcomers' school. They're also now in major need of school supplies as the children are going back to school and they each need their own individual supplies. Check out the e-news for their list and contact Isabel Atlas for pickup. And it's not too late still to join Sisterhood members for our Zoom yoga on Monday, October 26th. That's this Monday at 7 o'clock. You can join us for a calming and relaxing evening of yoga from the comfort of your own home. Please contact Myrna Nelson to make a reservation and receive your Zoom link. And one more thank you to David Gervis, who keeps us all connected to CBS with our weekly e-news. David, it's a lot of work and we do appreciate it. Thank you. On behalf of the CBS board, I wish you all good health and a restful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Judy, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
We are going to begin to conclude our service on page 282 of our Mishkan Tefillah prayer book with the Aleinu. Please feel free once again to rise to your feet or lift your spirits. Aleinu, page 282 at the bottom.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה לעוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 285. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. Oh, may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Al kain nekavel lecha Adonai Eloheinu lirot mehera b'tiferet uzecha letakein olam b'malchut shaddai. Page 287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We think of our loved ones, whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. This week, we are in Shloshim, the 30-day period of mourning for Leah Radish, first cousin of Bob Epstein, Joan Scurry, cousin of Myrna Nelson, and Rhonda Robinson, family friend of Mickey Gervis. And we fondly remember the yahrzeits of Pearl Eisenstein, mother of Sylvia Foster, Isidore Gervis, the father of David Gervis, Ethel Endelman, the aunt of Rabbi Stanley Halpern, Pearl Eisenstein, the maternal grandmother of Rhea McDonald, Rose Bernstein, grandmother of Jackie Randall, Al Posner, brother-in-law of Jerry Stern, H.B. Muchmore, the stepfather of Dan Davis, Mary Lee Feniger, mother of Fred Feniger, Ruth Kerber, stepmother of Paula Manders, Bernice Goldsmith, mother of Karen Stern, Frank Rothenberg, paternal grandfather of Beth Landy, Bernard Axelrod, father of Judy Weitzman, Milton Siegel, father of Donald Siegel, and Anna Rubin, the maternal grandmother of Beth Landy. If there are other names to remember for our yahrzeit list, you may add them to the chat tool. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. Mourner's Kaddish appears on page 294, and you may rise or lift your spirits according to your custom. Yit gadal v'yit gadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Israel ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam la'olmei almaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shmei dekudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata ta'amiran ba'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael ve'el kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru, amen. May the Holy One who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu Shalom Aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel.
Juliet, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. And I hope you have in front of you a cup of wine or whatever represents joy for you. And please feel free to join me in Kiddush Leil Shabbat, blessing over wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit Yehu yom techila lemikrai kodesh Zecher litziat Mitzrayim, Ivanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha'shabbat. Amen. L'chaim. I also have to give a very special thank you to my beautiful wife Hope and her amazing challah, as well as for, hope you've been noticing this amazing flower arrangement. And thanks to Danny, just because. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Holy One bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine upon you and be gracious to you always. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Holy One lift your spirits and establish peace for you, now and forevermore. As together we say, Shabbat Shalom. We're going to go ahead and take everybody off mute now. And we're just going to spend some time having our nice virtual schmooze.